Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Hambar, and today I'm doing my weekly update again. Liam's Leapings number 144. It's been a good week, I would say. And let's see, what did I read? What did I finish reading first? So, finished reading Falling into Oblivion, which I talked a lot about this. Actually, most of the ones I finished, I talked about a lot last week, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. Just kind of middling in my mind, but enjoyable enough. Um, it just really, really sticks to the genre, I guess. So you would read and be like, "Yeah, this is cyberpunk." But as someone who's read like a decent amount of cyberpunk, it feels like it's just doing that. It's just like trying to hit bullet points, and a lot of cyberpunk really feels like it's got it. It's kind of got its pulse on some contemporary issues, in particular dealing with technology and stuff sometimes. But this doesn't. So um, that being said, it's okay still. Then I also finished Sinners by Pat Cadigan. I enjoyed it. It's a little dry. It's got some really good parts. It's very light on action, but I enjoyed it overall. I'm glad I read it. The change for the machine thing is good. It's kind of terrifying. So, The Hollow Lands. I think I have this one over here actually. I remember to grab some of my books, not all of mine, but yes, The Hollow Lands by Michael Moorcock with red like pages. Can't really. It looks redder to my eyes than it does here. But yeah, it's good. I don't have many more thoughts on this one, but I'm hoping to read the third one somewhat soonish. And I think it's like twice the length of this one, but this is rather short, obviously. So, but enjoyable. And then it's funny because it's like a mix of like a historical novel, like a fin de siècle novel, and it's also time travel novel and also a dying earth novel all in one. And it's just got like this diabolical. It is absolutely diabolical at times. There's some essentially sexual content in this book, which it's never really explicit actually ever, but it's just like diabolical. Anytime it pops up, it's actually really funny. I think. So as someone who is not necessarily always the biggest fan of erotic content in books. Right, and then I also finished Software by Rudy Rucker. Really enjoyed this one actually. It's rather short as well. It's for free online on Rucker's website, I should say. It's not like illegal or anything. It's just Rucker has it on his website. You can read it. And I enjoyed it. It's much more about robots and being like kind of strictly cyberpunk. It's kind of like pre-cyberpunk because it came out in '82 actually. But it does feel a lot like cyberpunk. It's pretty interesting actually, just like how the main two characters are this like how they like kind of work together as characters, but then also just like the dance of the characters and what exactly is good and what exactly is bad in a sense. So, um, in the book, you definitely get like a good mix of alienness and then not alienness with the robots in particular, and that fine line between human and not human, right? Because like someone having their brain chopped up and then their personality and conscience put into a robot is a little terrifying. But someone, for example, who is really similar to that and actually is controlled like a remote, essentially, seems very human in some sense, but it's terrifying because they can essentially be taken control by their robot master or whatever. And also you have stuff like whatever that cape was called. I'm forgetting. It's got a funny name, but and that's an interesting mix of man and machine. So, anyways, the other things I've been reading this week, I'm still reading Forging the Blade. Uh, I I've been going really slow through this one, which isn't surprising. I'm on page 200 now, actually, 200 exactly. So I'm like 2/3 of the way through. Sorry, not 2/3, 2/5 of the way through, which could definitely be making more progress there. I don't remember if I had started this last week, but maybe I had. Dilvish the Damned. I recently read Lord of Light by Zelazny, which was not my favorite that I've read by Zelazny. This is much more enjoyable, actually. It's a fix-up novel. It's just short stories published in the 60s and 70s, mostly, I think. Kind of as a prequel to a novel called The Changing Land, I think. It actually came out before this. And I've read the first couple stories now, the first four. And Thalen's Song, really enjoyed that one. The Bells of Shordan is a bit more typical sword and sorcery type, but still enjoyed it, enjoyable. And Night for Maritha is an interesting story involving a vampire. I enjoyed that one a lot too. Um, so I read the first four stories because I think I talked about the first one last week. I'm not sure. So not very long. Again, pretty typical of the time. And then I also am still reading The Ocean of Tears, wherever that is around here, by Stuart Wieck, I think his name is. I'm enjoying it actually. I think it's a little drawn out for me because essentially it switches gears about a third of the way through and then goes in like a slightly different direction, which I'm not as interested in, but it's still well written and it's still informative for someone who's interested in the lore of EverQuest and Norath. Also, Swords and Larceny, that's right, edited by Mark Finn and David Afsharirad. I'm really close to finishing this one actually, and I've been reading it digitally from part of the Bane, Bane digital, whatever stuff that is that I get. So, enjoying it. It's not a favorite. I definitely will have some thoughts more on it. I'm going to review it soon. In fact, I might even review it this week. So if you want to hear some more specific thoughts, I will definitely have more specific thoughts. So, because I do think that it's a little more mixed than I would say, like normally, like an anthology of this type for me. Maybe more similar to some Bane. The Bane anthologies I normally read, I normally don't read them all the way through. Actually, I just go through and pick out the stories I want. It's kind of a shame, actually, that there's no Indrajit and Fix story in this one by DJ Butler, because I feel like it would fit rather well, besides the fact that they're not thieves, but I think it could have been spun in a way that they were the good guys, in a sense. So, because they are the good guys, they're the protagonists. So, but it's still good, and I think like one thought I will leave here before I leave the review is that I think the people who have the best idea of how a heroic fantasy short story could go are the ones that I know that have experience doing it, like James Ang and John C. Hawking, of like the earlier batch, or not even the early, I guess Ang's a little further in there. Those are good stories. Those are the best ones. There's a couple others that I'll mention in my review that are also up there with the best, and I don't know about most of the other authors. I don't know how much they actually write short stories, but part of me, it feels like that they don't seem to. They're not as tight, I feel like, as they could be, and especially for this type of story. So even if someone who does write short stories, I don't know, because like some of them feel way like they're trying to do way too much for a short story, which makes you think these people maybe write more epic stuff generally or something like that. And that's just not really how it works. It doesn't work very well, rather. Even Rockyo, I guarantee, especially looking at the page count, Rockyo, I think, is a little too prolix, even in his short stories. He has a similar problem with a lot of these authors. Rockyo makes up for it a lot, so more so than most authors. So that's actually the thing I always tease Christopher about, is that he's just a little too prolix, I guess. I still enjoy his stuff a lot. But anyways, I'm also really close to finishing Broken Angels by Richard K. Morgan. I'm not enjoying this one nearly as much, not even close to as much as Altered Carbon. Nick Scarfield pointed out to me that it's not really, the first book is cyberpunk really, but the second and third books are not. And he gave it an accurate description, actually, of like an archaeological, like military sci-fi book, and that is accurate. It's just not as enjoyable, and that might be because I just wasn't wanting to read that so much right now, or I don't know. I think the cyberpunk Morgan's attitude for the cyberpunk worked really well. This not so much. I mean, see, like it doesn't really hold up to say something like Joel Shepard's military sci-fi. That is considerably better, actually, in my opinion. And I think the third book's even a different genre. So I like switching to genres. I don't know how much I care for it in the same series that follows the same character. If it was the same series and there was like really just kind of loosely a series, nah. I also started, I think this is the last one, besides some short stories I read. I started Virtual Light by William Gibson. I'm enjoying this one. I'm not quite halfway through. So I'm decently far in, and very very enjoyable. Definitely a different feel than say his Sprawl trilogy. This is the first book in the Bridge trilogy. It still feels cyberpunk, but it does not feel quite the same. I mean, this came out in '93, I think, or '92, maybe. I don't know, '90s, early '90s, and definitely feels different. But at the same time, it definitely does feel cyberpunk. Definitely not the same world. It's a little, like I said, it's a little different. But I would still say it's cyberpunk. I think there's honestly there's people out there that say cyberpunk ended anywhere between 85 to like 90 or something like that. And I think that's wrong, personally. Just like having read a good amount of stuff written after that, and even today, I feel like cyberpunk is very relevant as a genre. I mean, essentially, maybe the '80s cyberpunk feels very '80s because it is. Yeah, but you can change cyberpunk's like guesses to fit the time period, right? I mean, anyways, I've written a little bit about my own cyberpunk, and you don't want it to feel quite 100% '80s because then it doesn't feel legit enough. Actually, that'd be like my one complaint in a sense of kind of about like T.R. Napper's, not his short stories actually. I think his short stories are fantastic, but um, like 36 Streets and Dasher Man. Well, good. I actually enjoy them, and I don't think they don't suffer from this too much. Kind of like Falling into Oblivion does, is but it still feels partially that you're really just writing to the genre. They feel very very 80s in a sense. It's offset a little bit by the fact that both those novels are set not in the West and they're set in the East, and I think that helps a little bit. But anyways, the two short stories I read this week were, what was it? The Night He Cried by Fritz Leiber, which is a weird story. Wow, it's Fritz Leiber, a surprise. It's a sci-fi story about an alien from Galaxy Center, uh, uh, shape-shifted into a beautiful woman, but like a prostitute, essentially, to deal with this guy. Supposedly, this guy just does not treat women well enough, and so I guess these galactic or maybe intergalactic aliens don't like misogyny. But this guy starts getting creeped out when he starts blowing her up or blowing this alien up, whether it's a she or he or it or whatever. Um, and she keeps on coming back. It's kind of funny. It's kind of comical. Um, I don't know if I can. It's rather short as well. Let's see. It's not it. There we go. Um, Scorning to answer, he stripped me with his eyes, but I had confidence in my milk glands. Lord knows, I had been hours perfecting them. About this, so it's this alien talks about his boobs a lot in this because he's got to make them look good for this bad guy on Earth. So it's I don't know. I think it's kind of funny to be honest. Also, I read. I don't think I put a bookmark in here actually. So I read another story from the Dead Man and other horror stories. I read My Name is Nancy Wood, which is like one of those weird stories that like something completely bonkers happens and the person that it happens to just acts like it's normal. And so I always find those like kind of weird in a sense. It's still good. It's Gene Wolfe. In some ways it's more straightforward than most of the stories I've read, which isn't surprising because it's Gene Wolfe. But yeah, not bad. It's rather short actually. So that's it. That's my reading for this week. So excuse me. Um, I did sign a contract actually to for my story in Old Moon. Um, so hopefully that will be coming out. I think next year. I think that's supposed to be coming out in like January or something. So that's exciting. This is I can't remember if I mentioned it before. This will be my first professional publication, actually professional rates. So that's nice. I like that. And it's a story I like. It's a publication I really like. Old Moon might be. I think it probably yeah. It's probably my favorite short story venue that I like to read. I read all the 8 issues, so um, yeah. So, anyways, I'll probably make a video on that when it comes out for sure. So, anyways, yeah. And actually, most of the stories I've ever had published are like free to read. So this one is not free to read. It will not be free to read, but it's cheap, and I definitely recommend reading Old Moon personally. So, anyways, Lean from Lean's Life. Let me know what you've been up to. Oh, ah, ah, ah. One thing, I have been busy with like a bunch of stuff, but one thing I wanted to mention real quick without actually showing it to you so much is I have someone, let's just say a friend, um, gave me their manuscript and beta reading it. I was surprised he physically gave me the manuscript. So reading that'll probably take me some time. It's rather large, actually, if you could tell. Um, and yeah, I'm enjoying it though. So worth mentioning because it is reading. Anyways.